Longevity, health, happiness, joy, these are all things that I think are really important for human beings. As long as, of course, it's within our capacity. That's to say, it doesn't breach a threshold that's comfortable. One of the beautiful things about human beings, we're all different. We all have different tendencies, characteristics, genes, and all the rest of it. And what is longevity for one person will be very different to another person. And I think one of the most important things to recognize is that the most important thing in life is to experience as much joy, contentment, purpose, meaning as you possibly can. And if that and the byproduct of that, of course, is more happiness, less stress, and in theory anyway, more longevity. But nevertheless, for me, what I try and write about in the book is trying to find more and more times in our lives where we can experience joy, and whether that be in our communities, with our families, singing, dancing, playing music, whatever it is we enjoy, cooking, taking our kids to the playground, going on a family vacation, going on traveling to another country, whatever it might be that provides you with purpose and joy and meaning is really, really important. And if you happen to also be able to do that like I can with my job, that's even better. That's where true joy and happiness comes from. And the byproduct of that is as I said, a less stressful, less exhausting, less worrying life, I suppose, and ultimately more longevity. But I wouldn't say like that what you're advocating for here is problematic at all, as long as it's comfortable and within, it doesn't breach any it doesn't drive us crazy trying to reach it, if that makes sense.
Well, I think that's the point. And just to be clear, I don't think it's a flawed ambition as well. And I think you've actually very nicely just encapsulated there all the different elements that go into leading a good life. And if the spin-off from all of that is a long life as well, well, that is perhaps to the greater good. And it's interesting talking to people, interviews for this podcast. One of the reasons that people give for living a long life is to share their wisdom and to share their longevity with their children, with their grandchildren. You mentioned children as well. And it's the family. It is the playtimes. It's the holidays. It's the big picture. And I think perhaps if there is an element of what we talk about here, where I would perhaps suggest that people could maybe pull back a little bit, and that is in the extreme diets, the extreme exercise, that, may not add much in terms of years to your life, but it could actually potentially add quite a lot of stress along the way. So I like to use the phrase moderation in everything is probably the best thing that we can do.
Oh, it's so important, Peter. You see this all the time right now because as I mentioned at the beginning, we elevate and amplify and platform those extreme cases, like people that have managed to find the secret to elongated life that comes from these kind of weird and wacky practices that just when you look at them and you actually think, goodness me, I'm going to have to do all these things just to eke out a few extra years. I'm not sure that's going to make me happy. It might make me live longer, but it's certainly not going to make me happy. So, but again, you're absolutely right when you talk about moderation too, and this is something we need to learn in modern society. Perfectionism is really just an extreme way to strive. Just like pursuing, as I mentioned in the very last chapter of the book, just like pursuing growth at all costs and pushing ourselves to the nth degree, pushing down at all times on the accelerator, is again a very extreme way to try to drive an economy. Like, that's not to say that economies won't grow, but if we try to get as much growth as we possibly can in the shortest possible time, there's going to be implications for our health and happiness as a population. And sometimes our economy gets to a point where there isn't much more growth that can come from it. That secularly we slow down, and if we continue to try and push forward, we're going to squeeze people relentlessly for more work, more consumption, for not much more increase in their living standards. And in fact, we're starting to see living standards decline now for most, for the middle classes, while still trying to pursue this kind of growth at all costs approach. And I think so moderation, yes, on an individual level, but I also think as a society too, we need to have a discussion about moderation and what a thriving economy, what a thriving country looks like. So I know I've taken that off in a very different direction, but I just wanted to reinforce that idea of moderation because I think it's so important.